Welcome back, everybody. We now have with us Ms. Heather McDonald, for the Director of Parks and Recreation. Very nice to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to ask you why you are running for this position and why you think that it is important to have an effective leader for the Director of Parks and Recreation.
Well, I have always really loved the environment and being outside and enjoying nature, and I think that, I always loved helping others, and I think that this position really involves both of those things really well.
Could you tell me a little bit about your family?
Yes, of course. I am married and I have 2 children, and I was born in Amimi, and my parents and brother still live here.
So you have very strong ties to the area?
Yes, I do.
What kind of education did you have?
After high school in Amimi, I went to the University of Georgia, where I got my bachelor's degree in Parks and Recreation. And then I stayed at the University of Georgia and received my master's in Parks and Recreational Management.
And you think that having the Parks and Recreational Management degree under your belt is definitely going to help with this position?
Yes, I do think so. I think it's very important.
Could you tell me a little bit about the jobs that you've had before?
Yes, after college, I went and I interned and worked at the Yellowstone National Park for 5 years, and then I went to Minneapolis with my husband, and I worked as the director of Parks and Recreational activities there.
How do you think that combining all the information that you have from Minneapolis and Yellowstone and bringing it to Amimi, Florida is going to really help boost your campaign?
I learned a lot of things from having very different diverse jobs, and I think that I can bring all the knowledge that I learned from Yellowstone and from Minneapolis to this job.
What are some of the problems that you see in the parks in this area that you would like to address?
I think pollution is a very big issue, and I think that if we can try to help solve that, then it'll bring in a lot more tourism and it will improve the lives of the people living in Amimi.
Do you think that we have a small amount of tourism here, or do you think that more tourism is always a good thing?
Well, I think more tourism is always a good thing, but I think that especially in the off seasons that we have trouble with tourism, a steady flow of tourists coming. But I think that if we introduce more activities and cultural events, that it'll bring more people in.
We've heard a lot about issues with litter and pollution, as well as vandalism. Do you see these as key areas that we should address, and if so, how do you plan on fixing some of these?
Yes, I think it's very important. It'll improve all the lives of everyone living here and all the tourists visiting. I think that if we add in more signage and just get the word across to people through different papers, magazines, like posters, flyers, stuff like that, we can also add more trash bins and recycling bins to the parks and facilities.
Have you also noticed an issue with the budget, and do you think that if you were to be elected over the incumbent, this is something that you could fix?
Yes, well, the incumbent has done very well in his last term, but I think that I can help improve the budget, and I think that by splitting it up into what is most important and creating a chart for the importance of all of our focuses would be very good.
Is there a certain park or recreational area that you think is in dire need of some help?
I think generally just all the parks need help for pollution, as far as pollution goes. But I think that it's always important to maintain our aquarium, since that's a very big tourist item, and our stadiums, our sports stadiums.
Do you have some strong ties to environmentalism, and do you believe that keeping the environment safe is a very important part of this position?
Yes, I do. I think it's very important. I grew up in Amimi, and I always thought that it was great to spend time outdoors, and I thought that was very important. And I just think it's a very important thing to keep track of and keep maintaining.
How would you encourage some of the people in this area to go to our recreational spots in our parks and just enjoy time outdoors?
Probably just having activities outdoors. I think it's very important to establish more community centers for kids to keep them out of trouble and away from bad influences. And I think by having activities that are outside, it can keep them more healthy and continue with sports camps, things like that.
Is there anything else that you would want to tell your voters before we finish up here?
I just want my voters to know that I was born in Amimi, and I know that there's a lot of great things that Amimi has to offer, but I also think that there's things that can definitely be improved, and I have your best interest in mind.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you.
It was nice having you here. And as soon as we come back, we're going to have our first candidate for the position of the district attorney.